Welcome to Using Excel Intermediate Spreadsheets, Part 1. On the Home tab of the ribbon, once you have selected a cell, regardless of its current content, you can change the formatting of the content of that cell. Look for the Format menu, Number Format, and currently the contents are all general, no specific formatting. We can choose to apply number formatting to those cells. A decimal place and 2 0 decimal point values are added. And we can actually increase or decrease the number of values shown after that decimal point as well, with these left and right arrows on that formatting menu. Let's find another. Here is currency. Left click. So the value now gains here in the UK a pound symbol, and again the decimal point would be led by number of pence following the pounds. For date, what's happened when you convert a value into a date is that Excel has counted the number of days since the 1st of January 1900. So the 29th of September 1900 is 273 days from that point, and it's converted it into that date format. If we convert a value into a percentage, it's just going off the screen slightly here while I choose that, it multiplies that value by 100. So we're going to speak about that again a little later. And when we convert a value into text, it's aligned on the left hand side of a cell. So a value that is a number is on the right hand side of a cell, right aligned, and a value that is a text is aligned on the left hand side of a cell. When you want to use percentage values in your spreadsheet, you need to think carefully about where you're placing them. Because if I take a value and just type it straight into the cell, and then try and make that cell into a percentage, I'm just going to left click on the percent star, Excel will multiply that value by 100. So we'll have 1000%, which isn't right at all. I'm just going to undo those two changes. So the way to avoid this from happening is to apply the percentage formatting to the cell prior to putting your values in. Just in here, drop down, percentage, or you can use the apply percentage value there. And now when I place values into those cells, I'll get the percentages that I expect, instead of, as I'll show you in just a moment, if I apply the percentage values afterwards, crazy multiplications. So always apply the formatting for percentages beforehand and then type in your values. Excel has an autofill tool that is operated by this small dot in the right hand corner of a cell, which is called the fill handle. I've just typed the text Monday into an empty cell. And now that I have the fill handle available, if I hover over it, the crosshairs change, the cursor changes into a small crosshair. I'm going to left click and hold down the mouse button and drag down. You can see that Excel is completing the days of the week automatically. I'm just going to change that to be Mon, an abbreviated Monday. Grab the fill handle, left click and hold, drag down, and the days of the week are similarly abbreviated. It will also do this with months of the year. Okay, so those are already built in, and you can set up your own as well. We'll look at that again later. But we'll also be able to autofill values, and here's a value sequence. So if I highlight two of those values, so there's two cells selected, grab and hold the fill handle and drag down, Excel detects the sequence and continues to add 2 as it fills in the remaining cells. And if I have the same going the other way, I'm just going to resize some of these a little. Okay. Then grabbing that fill handle, so I'm just going to highlight these 2 cells, grab the fill handle and drag to the right, and again it will complete that sequence. So that's the fill handle, and it's the small dot in the bottom right hand corner of your selected cell. We've already had a quick look at copy and paste in Excel. I'm going to show you some ways of copying and highlighting and pasting larger blocks of data. So here I have in column L a series of numbers, and we know that if we press and hold Ctrl and down, we can skip between that beginning and end of that data. However, in that cell, if I press Control and the Shift key and hold them down, and then press and release the down arrow key, I can actually select that entire set of data. Now I'm going to copy those cells. Excel, of course, using marching ants to show me it has that focus. So I can now left click in a second set of cells and paste that data into another cell set, another range, if you will. Okay, so I'm able to move to another set of cells. I'm just going to copy this one. Now if I press the Control Shift down here, it'll actually take me to the final cell on the entire page, so 148,000 rows later, which is not much good to me. So what I want to do is get to the bottom of this cell. I'm just going to press Control and down arrow to put myself in the right position. Okay, so I'll do that again with the cell selected for copying. So I've gone down to the bottom, move across to the right, then Control and Shift and up will highlight that whole set, and Control and V will paste the value across the whole set that I've highlighted. So I'll do that again in here, column L. From the bottom, Control and Shift are pressed and held down. Up arrow will select all of the cells in that group, copied them. Now I'm down to the bottom of column N. Control and up arrow, Control and Shift and up arrow to highlight, Control and V to overpaste them with that original set of values. So that's Control and Shift, and the use of the arrows will allow you to select groups of values to cut and paste over. Let's assume I have a formula here that will add the values from column D, multiplying them by 5% stored in E1 there, and show me the result. Okay, so I'm finding 5% of the value in D. Okay, 9.2, that's lovely. Let's have a look if that's 100. And we get 5, so we know that that's a working formula. Okay, that's just a little check I do there to find my percentages formulas are working. So I'm going to use the fill handle, left click on the small button in the right hand corner, hold the mouse button down and drag through, and that will copy the formula through the rest of the column. And we get all sorts of weird values. Let's have a look at that formula. Of course, that's gone off the page for a moment. There we are. Now you'll see that in the first formula it's working exactly as I wish it to. It's multiplying this value by that one, and then when we get into our second row, it's now calculating using the sum of the previous the result of the previous formula, and so on. Each time as we've copied down, the address has incremented from E1, E2, E3, E4, E5 all the way down to E13, so it's always going to be looking at the previous cell. and I needed to continue to look at the 0.05, the 5% in our first row. So the way we get around this is with some editing. I'm just going to cut those out and dispose of them. I'm going to press F2 on the keyboard. That'll give my cursor into the cell so that I can backspace delete my original address. There's that E1 as I wanted it. If I now press F4 on the keyboard, XL will place the dollar symbols into the cell address for me. And then, if I grab the fill handle and copy that through, you see that the formula remains consistent. I'm always going to have E1 as the cell on which I'm performing that calculation. Let's show those results. Okay. Let's do that check again. They are 5%. So I'm always going to find the right answer. In each cell I'm multiplying by that 5% stored in cell E1 because I've used because I've used the $E, $1 absolute cell reference to find my original figure. Now because I'm only incrementing the row by dragging down, I could actually have E $1 and not have the first dollar symbol in there at all. It's not really needed, but just out of neatness I've left it in there. If you're pressing F4 on your keyboard while you're in this edit mode, each time you press you'll notice it's removing or adding the dollar symbols. So on the first press you get both the dollar symbols for locking the column address and the row address. The second impression is locked only the row address, which would be fine in this particular formula. Third press, it's now only locking the column address, so if I were to drag sideways to the right to fill in the rest of the columns of this formula, it would still always point at E1. And a fourth press removes those dollar symbols completely. So that's a shortcut of getting your dollar symbols into your formula. Let's have another quick look at that. Okay, so if I were to start the formula again, equal the sum of D2 multiplied by E1, press the F4 on the keyboard, dollar symbols are added for me, close the brackets, and I can now copy that through the rest of the column and have the results that I'm expecting.